Hey, welcome back. This is MC1 Gamer. Today I wanted to talk a little bit more about end times and what might be happening after end times. The next edition of Ninth is long rumored, but we still have several books that are also rumored to be launching that are going to continue through end times. Next one being Chaos. There's the rumored one that has new Skaven rules, rumors about combining elves, new rumors about combining the human kingdoms, Empire and Bretonia. But I read an article today by Larry Vila on Bell of Lost Souls, and it's one of those sites. Sometimes there's accuracy, sometimes there isn't. It's hit or miss. And it was very interesting, and I'm going to read it to you, give you some details about it, and then I want to open up the questions to anybody who's listening and watching and following about what you think about this, because it does raise some very interesting and somewhat concerning, and then also somewhat exciting possibilities about where Warhammer might be going. So this goes back to a article that was written by Harry, who apparently has some pretty accurate stuff that Bell of Lost Souls draws from, and it goes along the lines of a late night conversation with the developers of Warhammer, talking about what their next mission, what their next release would be. Is it going to be another edition of Warhammer? Would it be a skirmish game? Would it be fighting in boats, in tunnels and underground, exploring new areas on the map? And then they've been drinking, maybe they've been dabbling in other mind-altering substances, for all we know, and I guess they really started to get creative or just look a little bit outside the box. They had, talked about that there was Storm Magic already for big monster games. They wanted to look at potentially, again, they were talking about skirmish, which I think would be great. It would be great to have a skirmish game that kind of built into the larger Warhammer Fantasy game. So I think that it would be great to see a return to Mordheim or something along those lines. Get updated rules, get new models, use models that we already have. Love the idea of Mordheim. And but would they need a new big rule book? Do they need maybe it's just a new starter book that just encompasses new skirmish rules and maybe combined books? What alarms me, of course, is that they say that every army has a book. Every army does not have a book. Every army has a book, but some of the books are so old they're collecting way too much dust, and they're decrepit, 10, 15 plus whatever years old. Bretonia needs a new book. Tomb Kings, well, you got a lot of pump with the End Times combination with VC, so they're very much updated. Skaven can use a new book, but they're still pretty solid with what they currently have. But I guess the big factor is Beastmen and Bretonia. Are they just going to now be left behind? There was rumors that there was definitely new stuff coming out. This kind of conversation, I guess, is speculation now. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're going to be doing something completely different, because along with the idea of bringing out like warband type games, the idea also is no more books. They've done enough. They've done enough with 8th edition. They don't need to. They can leave that as the penultimate edition of Warhammer that everybody's going to draw from. And now they're going to potentially look at just bringing out end times caliber source books for playing Warhammer in different times and different places. So it would change the setting. There'd be new types of special rules, new characters that can come into play. They could definitely do a pivot here into other areas and even other times. So when we could be looking at new starter armies or packets or starter sets that could take place 500 years in the past or 500 years in the future, or on another side of the game world. References to Lustria, for instance. So it does make a little bit of sense. This guy Harry does point out that it was late at night, and I bet it was more than that even. But he posed the question: if you were a game developer for Warhammer Fantasy with this in mind, and you didn't need to write a new edition or rewrite a new army book, where would you go next? What aspect of Warhammer would you like to explore? That's actually verbatim, those last few sentences from what he wrote. And he said that he's pretty sure he'd like to start, skirmishes, which I think is skirmish games, which I think was fantastic. But it does leave the question of, okay, Warhammer Fantasy, is this really the end times for what we had known Warhammer Fantasy to be? And is this an option into the future that could be a really good thing? Maybe we should be a little optimistic about this as a possibility. It's certainly a good thing for GW, because if people buy into it, they're going to continue to be buying new books, new sets, new models. It's not going to be the old mainstay of I've got my army and maybe there's some adjusted new units, some adjusted new rules, a nice shiny new book. It would definitely support their model of we want to keep people buying, we want to keep people painting, we want to keep people purchasing, and we want to keep the revenue coming in from a business standpoint, which does suck a little bit for the consumer like us, but it makes sense. There is something to that. But let's look. What are the downsides? What are the upsides? We know what the downsides are pretty obvious. We're going to have to really change the way we look at Warhammer Fantasy, or we're going to be living in 8th edition with other modifications. So tell us what you think. I'd love to hear what everybody thinks, what kind of ideas you have, what speculation you have. Build on this. Okay, though, let's concentrate specifically on this, and I look forward to seeing you again with my next video. Thanks. If you like this, please like. Feel free to comment. We'd love to have the discussion, and hey, love to have you subscribe and following all these new things that I'm going to be posting up. Thanks. Have a great day.